Okay, good afternoon and welcome back to Area 31. It has been a while. I went off on my California coast vacation and I got back 4 or 5 days ago. It had good and bad points to it for sure, so I'm glad I went, but I'm also glad that I'm back home. So tomorrow will be my last day off and then I have to return back to the dreaded workplace. So anyway, today we're going to fly. We are on runway 14 here at KMFR, and I'm heading in a southerly manner, as you can see, 145 degrees, and we're headed to Applegate Lake. So it's been a while since I've flown, so let's get this plane up in the air. Let's throttle up. And I'm going to almost the Northern California border. Let's go back in here and disconnect the parking brake, because that way it's going to work a whole lot better. I seem to always forget that. So if you're going to forget something, I guess releasing the parking brake is a good one to forget. So, because you can't go nowhere. Alright, so we're going to go to Applegate Lake today. This is something I've wanted to be doing for a while and check things out. There's some interesting things there I want to share, and a lot of it's going to be using the current Google Earth map. And I know this uses Google Earth, but I don't know if it's the absolute current, so I'll know once I get there. So anyway, it's a beautiful day out here, and I'm having a little trouble with my takeoff. So I started this game. I started the flight simulator for the first time about an hour and a half ago. And it got so far, and then it started a 17 gigabyte download. And it's taken almost an hour and a half for it to finally get done. I was getting a little fed up. Anyway, we're okay, so the flaps should be, they'll take care of themselves. Alright, so we're going to turn a little bit to the west and be heading directly into those mountains. It won't take too long before we get to the Applegate Lake area. So as far as my trip goes, it was quite a long drive to get there. I spent 4 days in Crescent City, California, and I had some fun, but I also had a lot of hip and back pain because of arthritis and being stuck in the car for a long period of time. Once I got home, I had to recover for several days before I could get back to home. Other than that, it was okay. It wasn't too bad. So let's see where we're at here. Maybe get some elevation going here. And I don't want to let go of the throttle right now, or the stick, because I'm climbing. We gotta climb pretty high. We gotta get over some mountains there. We'll be in the Applegate Lake area, so I'll come back once we are pretty much there, and we'll start this little Google Earth tour of 3 things at Applegate Lake, Oregon. Okay, and just that fast, we are at Applegate Lake. Straight ahead of the plane is the dam. We're going to look kind of closely at the dam. We're also going to go and check out the world's only known Bigfoot trap, and we're going to have a look at the town of Copper, which is now at the bottom of the lake, and we're also going to look at a place where an entire family was murdered back in 1974. So there we go. We're entering the lake area now. Let's check out the Google. So the south end of Applegate Lake, which is right here, is practically at the California border. The northern end is where the dam is at. So we will start where the dam is at. So we have the spillway right here, and the river continues on to the north. We have a big tower that goes out there. You can walk out to it. We have a little park right here. The dam was completed in 1976. I do remember hearing that while they were doing the construction and building the dam, that they actually struck gold and had to kind of shut down production while they mined the gold out of there. Zooming in a little closer, you can see the tower out there. It's really big and a lot of people will fish off of it, but right now the elevation of the water is pretty darn low. There's not even any water in the spillway, so it'd be pretty hard to fish off of that. I do remember hearing a story back in the 1980s that when the water level had went down like this, that somewhere around the dam, spillway, tower area, a body had been located that had been weighted down with some sort of cement blocks or something, and because the water level dropped so low, the body was viewable. They could see it. They found it. I haven't been able to track down any information on this, so whether it's true or not, I really don't know. So you can drive across the dam. This road will take you up to the Squaw Lakes area. So we're trying to circle the dam area. Now in the Google Earth on the game, the lake is completely full, as you can see. But in real life, the Google Earth is not very old, and it is way down because we're in a drought situation pretty bad. So now we're going to come up here to the Hartish Park area and we'll check this out and we'll go check out the world's only known Bigfoot trap. Heading kind of south to where the really nice park campground area is. I'm not sure that there's a campground here. I think there is somewhere over in here or down in here, at least for RVs. This here is the really nice green beachy area. The water level would of course be clear up to here. As you can see, it's nowhere near that right now, and it looks pretty dead and dry here. We see a boat ramp for boat launching, and the boat ramp is not even in the water. That's how bad the water level is right now. We can see part of the old original road that took us to the town of Copper. This part is visible, and then it disappears into the lake. But before we continue up the lake, we're going to go check out the Bigfoot trap right here. You see it marked. This is an official trap that was built in 1974 by a company out of Eugene, according to the Bigfoot Trap wiki page. So in order to get to it, you can just kind of park your car right along here or over in this area, and the trailhead starts here. It's a Collins Mountain trailhead, and it's not too far of a hike, but this last part coming up the ravine's kind of tough. But it's an official Bigfoot trap, the only one known in the world. Okay, as you can see, I temporarily lost my internet connection and kind of got into trouble, and I was stalling out as I'm attempting to circle the Hartish Park area, which is right down there to the left. And well, it sure looks different than the real life Google Earth map. So now let's go up here to where the world's only known Bigfoot trap is. We're not going to be able to see it from up here, but the Google Earth will show it, and I'll have some pictures to share of the tour. And we're probably passing right about overhead where the world's only known Bigfoot Sasquatch trap is at. Back to the lake, we're going to continue towards the Northern California area, and you can see the lake is pretty darn low. The road is down in this area now, and this is all the new highway right here. And as we continue up, we come to what is known as the Copper Boat Ramp, and that's going to be this right here. And it's just another simple boat ramp that will take you all the way down here. The Copper boat ramp is supposed to be where the town of Copper was at, but many, many years ago, in the early 1980s, I would make trips up here. I'd park my car here, and then I'd walk down. There's kind of a little road to get down to this area, and I remember seeing evidence of the city, of the town down here. It was only a couple of buildings, but you'd get down here, and this is actually the original roadway here. It went across this little creek. I remember much of the bridge still intact there, and then it would go around here and so forth and so on. And I remember seeing like foundations and evidence of buildings down in this area, not quite over here to the Copper ramp. But I remember it was pretty pronounced. And back then in the 1980s, it was really muddy down there. I mean, you just couldn't help but just make a big mess out of yourself by walking down to this area and checking it out. Now, I think it's pretty much impossible to see any remains of the town because there's just so much silt and mud in that area. You can just barely make out the original road that took us to the town of Copper. All right, we just passed the town of Copper, I think. This looks quite a bit different than the real-life Google Earth map. So, and man, I'm losing elevation, yes. And, oh, I've got to try to not crash this plane here. Oh, the 500 lady's going to really start yelling at me. So, we flew past where the town of Copper was, but we checked it out on the Google Earth map, and it was really pretty interesting. And now we're at the end of the lake. So now we got to get this monster turned back around. Then we're going to go check out the last thing I want to talk about here and share the story of the Cowden Family murders. A very sad thing. I was about 14 years old when this happened, and I still remember it to this day. The town of Copper would be just right up here a little ways underneath the water. And one last thing to look at here is going to be the Cowden Family murders. I remember very well when this took place. It was in 1974. The entire family disappeared. They were at this Carberry Creek campground. We look at the Wikipedia page, and it says in there that Mr. Cowden and his son had walked down here. The lake, of course, wasn't here at the time, to the Copper's General Store and bought milk and whatnot, and then they walked back up here. So this is the area right in here where they were camping out, and it was that night or the next day when Mrs. Cowden's mother came up to visit with them and noticed that the camp, they just kind of left personal items there, and she got concerned and eventually called the police, and they were not found for another year. The entire family had been taken from this area, or they left themselves. I do not ended up at some point up in here. There's a cemetery up here. We'll take a close look at that. It's going to be the Steamboat Cemetery. It was in 1975, some 6 or 7 months later, when the remains of the entire family were found somewhere on the side of this mountain, maybe up in here. I'm not sure. I've never been to it. But somewhere up here, Richard Cowden was found still tied to a tree, and his wife and 2 children were discovered in a cave nearby. And to this day, it is still an unsolved murder. That's where their bodies were discovered some months later. I remember very, very well the fear that went through the entire area where I lived at. So that's a couple of interesting things here at the Applegate Lake area here in southern Oregon. The Cowden family murders, the town of Copper, which is underneath the lake, at the bottom of the lake, and of course the world's only known Bigfoot trap, all right here in a very small area. Now we're going to go up the Carberry Creek area. And this was the last known location of the Cowden family at their Carberry Creek campground, which would be just about underneath the plane right now. And then we're going to fly to the location where the bodies were found some 7 months later of an entire family that was murdered and still unsolved to this day. Okay, we're about to the location of where Richard and Belinda Cowden's bodies were located 7 months after disappearing along with their 2 children. This is the steamboat area as seen on Microsoft Flight Simulator. And the cemetery would be right in this area, and they would have been found. Their bodies would have been located in these hills off to the right. That's about it. So now we're going to head back to KMFR. And just to give you a perspective in closing here, this is the Applegate Lake area. And here in Medford is KMFR, where I took off earlier today. So I hope you'll join me again for another flight with Area 31. Thanks for watching.